Well, here we go. Wisconsin's offense versus Nebraska's defense. There's a lot of red. And in this case, even though these two teams are red, this is a bad thing for Wisconsin's offense.
Okay.
Their rate of getting into the Eckel zone or inside the opponent's 40-yard line, a.k.a. the Eckel, is only 108th in the country. Their points per Eckel is only 71st. Better than Nebraska's, but not by much.
Not by much, but they don't get there. So their issue is they don't even drive, and when they do, they still barely score.
Their early down success is below average.
Yikes.
Their third and fourth down success is slightly below average. And in terms of their EPA, that's expected points
added.
Yep. Either in rushing the ball or passing are kind of mid. And my first conclusion out of this was this is an air raid team?
Yeah. Now remember,
not really.
Remember Phil Longo, he who is Phil Gongo.
Nice.
He did run the ball at
He
South,
wasn't
at
long
North Carolina.
for this world.
There we go. He did run the ball at North Carolina, just didn't really happen.
He did.
My first takeaway from this was, man, if there was ever a game for Nebraska's defense to find its footing again, this would be it.
Yes, it would, because
this would be the game.
Despite last week, the run defense is still top 25 in EPA per rush. The Havoc is still in the top 35, but it was missing last week.
Yeah.
Though they could have gotten a lot of havoc if they just would have timed their jumps properly or
gosh,
caught passes that were coming straight for them.
John.
But there's nothing here that is an edge for Bucky Badger.
No.
The one thing they do have going for them is Wisconsin does not allow a lot of havoc. So this will be rather interesting if Nebraska is able to create some havoc, because Nebraska is 35th in havoc cause. And again, havoc plays, incomplete passes, interceptions, any passes defensed, tackles for loss, forced fumbles. Nebraska's 35th on defense. Wisconsin, in preventing havoc, is 33rd. So very respectable.
Yeah.
They don't give up a lot of negative plays, which is good for them.
Yes.
Most of that's because Braden Locke has been throwing the ball into the ground because he only has a 55% completion rate.
Not good. Jordan writes, I'm predicting a 7-6 type of game. Sad Husker fan writes, I'm dead inside.
On the other side of the matchup, when we flip it, Wisconsin's defense versus Nebraska's offense, it's a pretty good pass defense that Wisconsin has. They showed it off a little bit last week against Oregon, 37th in EPA per drop back.
But man, their rush defense has taken a large step back. And
yes, it has.
The numbers here, 62 is not that terrible.
It's mid, it's average.
But for them, it is really, really bad.
Yes.
How about this stat? For the first time since 2018, and this is accounting stats, so this is traditional, Badgers outside of the top 50 in rushing defense. They're allowing over 160 yards per game, 4.5 yards per carry, a far tumble from the stout top 10 units of the Paul Christ era. So writes the on-3 breakdown from Joseph Meyer.
that was the thing about Wisconsin historically under Alvarez. Run the ball and stop the run.
Dude, and that was the
That's
thing
what they did.
that they were doing in the Paul Christ era too, man. Like you would go into Madison and it was just like, or they would come to your house. Running the ball was darn near impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It's why they were able to upset teams, or at the very least hang with teams that were way more talented than them. And now, this, again, mid, but for them, it might as well be the worst ever. It's like when Nebraska's rush offense after the glory days started being like this, like, whoa, why are you only 60th best? We only know you as top 3. That's what's happening right now with Wisconsin's rush defense.
Teams also like testing that run defense. The run rate over expected. Teams run the ball nearly 5% more than expected against Wisconsin defense, going back to that point about how their defense is.
Yeah, pretty interesting. And the thing that always stands out whenever we do this exercise, and it's the name of the segment, Heckle the Eckel, Nebraska still is able to drive the ball. Of all of the stats over the course of the year on this very graphic, in this very segment, that have fallen by the wayside, that's the one. I don't know if, I think it was even higher at one point in time.
It was.
But it's always around the top 20.
Mm-hmm.
It is always there. They always move the ball, no matter how many points they score. And again, in the Matt Rule era, the offense has never scored more than 24 points against a power team. Last week, they scored 13 points, but they were unable to finish drives.
Nebraska's offense, very mid. EPA versus the running the ball, EPA per drop back is in the 60s. The Points per echo, as you just mentioned, 119th in the country. They're averaging less than a field goal for every drive that gets inside the opponent's 40. It's just really, really bad. And this game, you could call the resistible force versus the movable object.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin doesn't cause a lot of havoc, 120th in the country. But Nebraska has been allowing, and it's been getting a little bit worse each week. They're 89th in allowing havoc. So resistible force versus the movable object.
Mm-hmm. JD writes, if Nebraska, now JD's an Iowa fan, if Nebraska would start Harburg and let him play all game, Nebraska wins by 17. But since 15 will play, it will be one score. Look when Iowa played them and Sullivan's Lions. 83 yards passing, nearly 350 rushing, scored 40.
I mean,
He turns the ball over.
He does turn the ball over, but if he can run the ball.
Noted Wisconsin fan Kyle writes in, don't care about these nerd numbers. Wisco is going to dominate field position and time of possession.
I think Holgo will dominate Wisco.
Interesting you say
He
that.
says, get out of there with your nerdery.
Okay, interesting you say that because, all right, so in this side of the
Settle
matchup,
down, nerd boy.
Wisconsin is 60th in defensive starting field position. Nebraska's 89th.
Nerd.
Wisconsin on offense, 99th in starting field position. Not good.
No.
And you forget, Nebraska does have a weapon. His name is Steve Buscemi, a.k.a.
Nice.
Brian Buschini.
Yeah, and again, like, to go back to what JD said, like, Harburg had a lot of turnovers. So, like, yeah, he can run the ball better than Dylan Raiola can. We are not arguing with that. But to just say, like, yeah, they'd win by... No, why would they win by that many points? They don't win by that many points. So why would they do it this time? They didn't do it last year with him.
They didn't have him last year. He didn't play that
No,
game.
Harburg.
Harburg
No,
did.
in that game, no. But in other games, they beat Purdue by 17.
And Chuba had a 50-yard touchdown run?
Yeah, in like the first drive.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. Quarterback run game, baby. Quarterback run game.
Well, sorry, Dylan throws the ball. Do we want to look at Nebraska versus the olden times first, or do you want to go matchup?
Well, let's stick with the matchup just
Okay.
so we can complete that cycle.
All right,
Whoa.
we begin. This is fascinating because it is almost like the graphic is shifted where people are like, no, Josh, you need to move them a bit more to the middle. No, this is what we have. Is that blue, John? What color is
It's blue.
that? Is Wisconsin.
Blue is Wisconsin.
So Wisconsin, and this is Nebraska's offense versus Wisconsin's defense. When you look at this matchup, both teams, sorry, Kyle, and some of these nerdery numbers have some large advantages.
And they're all on the run side. The run is on the right side of the radar. Rush EPA,
Yep.
stuff rate or stuff percentage, and line yard. So yeah,
and then when you look at the pass defense and where Nebraska
This is a
struggles,
run-the-ball
they're
game.
really good.
this is a run the ball game. Heinrich Harburg.
Holgo the Oko. Will he call some runs or will he drop his injured quarterback into the backfield to throw the ball 40 times?
Or will he say, oh, no?
So that's what we see. I mean, you're right, though, John. The Nebraska running versus their bad run defense, good. Wisconsin's good pass defense versus Nebraska's bad pass offense. That would be an advantage that they would have. The other side, what in the world kind of shapes are we doing?
It looks like a graphic error in a video game.
It does.
Wait until we get to Nebraska's numbers now versus when we first started doing this exercise 5 weeks ago, because it's going to be really, really sad. Again,
But notice that Wisconsin's got some edges in line yards, which is the yards that are credited to the offensive line, meaning they get a good push, meaning your running back's getting 3 yards before he even has to get to contact. And stuff percentage is really good. So they're not getting stuffed a lot. Nebraska's not doing that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Nebraska is really, John, they're really average at a lot of numbers, but where they have advantages, it's because Wisconsin is so bad. Like the one that is jumping out to me is the explosive percentage. Nebraska, pretty middle of the pack. Wisconsin is like the bottom of the barrel. And I have another number on top of that.
No big plays.
Let me go back to it. Here we go. 30 plays of 20-plus yards, fifth worst in the entire country. And their only conference wins have come when allowing one touchdown or less. Now, this is about their offense, but that just shows the pressure that is put on their offense. So, early key to tomorrow, the advantages that a team has versus the other team's like crazy disadvantages, can either one of those flip? Mm-hmm. Can a team with a disadvantage take advantage of a team's advantage? Because if they can, that's how you win a football game.